out in the world of the internet. We are back yet again for another DragonCon Theater and Performing Arts Lovers unofficial panel. This time, we're doing one of our In Defense of series for In Defense of Grease 2, the often downplayed
Maligned.
counterpart to the
Maligned.
original.
Maligned is the word I
The
would use.
redheaded
Oh,
cousin of Grease movies, if you will.
oh,
I
okay.
call this the superior grease, is what I
Yes,
refer to it
I
as.
agree with that. I liked it
Exactly.
better
That's
than
why
the
we're talking
original.
about it. Greg may have been bugging me about this for months to do a Grease 2 panel. So,
That's true.
and then as soon as I mentioned it, Allison was like, I want on that panel. And I'm like, well, you just volunteered yourself. And so
I
we're
think I
here.
had made a comment about something, and you were like, "We're doing a Grease 2 panel, and you are required to be there." And I was like, "Okay."
That's how Sarah works. That's how you find out about anything you're doing.
It's true.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, in the theater, you just volunteered yourself. Oh, you didn't need to? Well, too bad. Stage manager says this is now your job. Uh,
I volunteered on purpose.
you did. And we love volunteers.
I was told I was doing it.
I'm
Yep.
ex-Navy, and the Navy stands for Never Again Volunteer Yourself.
Well, that being said, one of the things I always like to do, I like people to go around, introduce themselves, and my first question is I want to know, how did you first discover Grease 2, and did you know it was a sequel when you first saw it? Um, Greg, I'm picking on you first.
That's fine. I like that. Yes, I knew it was a sequel, not just because the number two was at the end of the title, but also because I had seen Grease at that point. But Grease 2 was a staple on cable television in the 80s. There were like three movies that were on in perpetuity on HBO. It was Cat's Eye, Stephen King's Cat's Eye. It
Yes.
was Clue with Tim Curry, and it was Grease 2. Okay. And so I discovered that, and I liked musicals okay. And honestly, I never really liked Grease, even before like I got a little pompous about Grease 2. But Grease 2, I always thought it was fun. It was like a good time, and it was on like every day I come home from school. I turn on the TV, and it was either Tim Curry I was watching, Michelle Pfeiffer, or Drew Barrymore with a cat. So
There are
and then
no
like
bad options.
right, and I've seen
This
Grease
explains
2.
so much.
I've seen Grease 2 on the big screen repeatedly since then. I've seen live shadowcasts of Grease 2. I've never gotten a chance to shadowcast it myself, but uh, I've been in productions where like cast members from the movie came to see the shadowcast. It's pretty. It's a Grease 2 is a good time. So
Awesome. How about you, Christy?
Well, I also found it on television, but I was always very big into musicals. And my grandmother was a teenager in the 50s, so we watched Grease over and over and over, and then I discovered Grease too.
Hmm.
And well, I mean, who doesn't start singing Cool Rider when they climb up a ladder?
every time.
I mean, seriously, that's just we all do it. So, but I until yesterday apparently had only seen the TV edit.
Really?
My friends would reference reproduction. I had no
Oh
idea
my
what they were talking
Wow.
goodness.
about.
Like
It's
80%
so
of what I learned
funny.
about sex
And
ed was
kids
from
have
that
been doing
song.
it
Yes.
all the time.
They
I
did
had a
that
lot of mixed up
reproduction.
feelings about a lot of things.
That was completely cut from the
Again,
TV edit.
You
explains
don't
so
even know
much,
what it
Yep.
Greg.
Well, I got
Wow,
the
I'm sorry.
pistol right here.
Yep.
How about you, Stephanie?
Um, so like when I was a kid, I pretty much every week my grandparents like co-raised me, and they had this giant VHS library, and they had both Grease and Grease 2. And I mean, I'm probably about like 7 at this time,
And now that I watch it as an adult, I'm like, why did you let me watch this at the age? It was that and Pretty Woman were the other one that I wanted to
What?
watch every time. And I still love both of those movies, but like maybe not the best because it wasn't the TV edit. To be clear, it it did have reproduction in it.
You learn stuff. Yeah.
Um, yeah, unwillingly. Um, but no, it's I totally agree. I just think it has like such great energy, and I like the original Grease. The original Grease is like okay, but Grease 2 is my passion, and it also doesn't hurt that my name is Stephanie,
That's
and
fair.
I wanted to believe that I was Michelle Pfeiffer.
Don't we all? How about
It,
you, Allison?
I honestly don't remember a time where I didn't love this movie. Like I don't know when I first saw it. I don't know what drew me to it. Maybe it was high school. My high school senior year, we did Grease, the Broadway version, which tangent. They are the Burger Palace boys, not the T-Birds
That's true.
in the
Yes.
Broadway version.
That's accurate. Yep.
I was lighting designer and I spoke to the person playing a character and I was like, after opening night, I was like, don't say that word, just say the T-Birds, no one will sue us, it's fine, no one knows what that means. Anyway, I have no idea when I first saw Grease 2. It's the better of the Greases. I will die on that hill. Um, I love it so much. I love the music. I love a young Michelle Pfeiffer. I could wax poetic about it, and I won't yet, but yes, amazing.
And how about you, Fairy Godmother?
I have a kind of a different story because I was actually living in Saudi Arabia from 79 to 84 when I was like 8 to 11 or something. So I missed Grease. I never saw Grease when it came out, and I wasn't watching in American television, but somebody had brought over a copy of Grease 2 at the
Hmm.
very end, and because, they black recorded anyway. So I got to see Grease 2 first and I loved it. And then it was like, oh, that's nothing compared to Grease. And so when I got the chance to watch Grease, I was like, what are they talking about? This is nowhere near as good as
Disappointment.
Grease
I know,
2.
right? Ugh.
So I got them in backwards order because of, and I think partly also having lived in Saudi Arabia, I really love the feminism
Hmm.
and Greece too, where it's a lot more docile subservience in Greece.
Mm.
And I'd had enough of that by the time I was 12. Um, so,
That is absolutely correct. Now, the original Grease was filmed in the 1970s, but set in the 1950s.
Yes.
Grease 2 was filmed in the 80s and portrays the 60s. Do you think that generational gap is what made people have the reactions to it that they did? Because let's be honest, a lot of people are not like us. They don't like the movie. So, do you think that's what influenced it? Or do you think it's something else? Like, it's not John Travolta? Or what do you think? And Allison, I'm going to pick on you first.
That's great. Um, Thinking about it, I can definitely see teenagers in the 80s not being interested in what happened in the 60s. They're like,
Hmm.
why is this time period interesting to me? I want rock and roll. I want this and that. I want the cool hairband. Um, but yeah, the not John Travolta thing definitely plays. But come on, a young Michelle Pfeiffer, like, how can you go wrong?
Yeah.
If
Hmm.
anything else, a young Michelle Pfeiffer and um,
Maxwell Caulfield.
oh yeah, Michael's just beautiful. But Johnny too,
Hmm.
um, he is a heartthrob. That scene where he swallows the cigarette and oh, just comedy gold. Um, but yeah, I can definitely see kids in the 80s being like, no, we want the new hip thing. We don't want to look to the past. We want to look to the future. So it's a
Okay.
distinct possibility.
Okay. Greg, you seem to have some thoughts there.
I
So,
look. This movie I have given a drunken TED talk on more than several dozen times. Okay, I've gotten into bar fights over Defense of Grease too. So like I have very strong feelings about this, and
Well, you
you're not.
don't need to get into any bar fights here. We all like the movie.
That's good because I'm old and I can't fight like I did. But I agree with Allison in a lot of respects because you have to think too when Grease came out like as a film, it was a film. Like it was it was an event. You went to the cinema and there was no cable. There was cable TV, but not anybody had it. Then by the time Grease 2 hit cable, where I saw it, of course, um,
Mhm.
we had MTV and we could see like fashions across the globe, and we had like Grace Jones and Madonna and Duran Duran and all these guys doing cool hip things, and then there's Adrian Zemed dressed like a TV version
Whoa.
of yeah Danny Zuko, and but at the same time though, I think that if anybody took the time to watch it, like Michelle Pfeiffer taught a lot of us a lot about ourselves in Cool Rider. Like I don't think I've ever met a person that didn't say like that was a defining moment in my sexual awakening. I figured a lot of
That
stuff
and
out about myself.
reproduction. That
Right.
and reproduction.
Exactly.
Well, not
Exactly.
for Christy.
No, Chrissy didn't. She's still figuring it out. But but
Hey, I have no children. Let me just say that.
You
well,
did it right.
you did it exactly right. I have
The
four. I decided to
comment
have
went
children instead of money.
nowhere.
Um, but I
Oh, I
think
don't have
that
that either.
I think that the big thing that you ran into too was that you had a lot of star power because Olivia Newton-John was a big she was a big pop star coming from Australia. Like John Travolta coming off of TV with Saturday Night Fever and all of that stuff too. These were iconic celebrities, whereas like Adrian Zemed's biggest claim to fame at that point was like Bachelor Party, and Michelle Pfeiffer was still kind of unknown. Like she'd only been in like Hollywood Nights and like Demucci was in The Heavenly Kid. You know what I mean? Like like there's like Pamela Adlon hadn't done a Bobby Hill voice yet. Like all of these guys were like C level, whereas Grease had the A level. So that also I think factored in as well.
Mhm. Definitely.
Sorry, I yammered. I apologize.
No, you don't need to apologize. Stephanie, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think that, like, thinking about it at the time period that it came out, I can see how Grease 2 would be sort of like, the made for TV movie sequel kind of vibes, like a lower budget version. And I mean, I do think just the vibes of Grease 2 are really different from the vibes of Grease 1. Like,
Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
think we all know, and there's no need to dance around it, that Grease 2 is unapologetically horny. And
Very
just
feminine
like
oriented. It
just a
was
really different kind of attitude
Yeah.
from Grease 1. So maybe there wasn't as much transfer of like people who really loved Grease 1. I can see why they maybe were less excited about Grease 2. And then I kind of echo what everyone else said, that like the 80s were very much a time of like cutting edge and being wanting to be like in the now and what's the next weirdest thing, coolest thing that's coming out. And a movie that's like looking back at the 60s is maybe not what people were into at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have anything on that to add, Fairy Godmother?
they all covered it pretty well, but I also think part of it is also that it was the generation that were young adults or new parents in the late 70s and the mid 70s
True.
that
Mhm.
got Grease. And
Mhm.
some of their younger kids, or the kids that were young kids in the 70s and were teenagers in the 80s, that got Grease too. So I think it's also a generational. And I think Grease 2 just appeals more to Gen X, maybe in a very
Mhm.
real way, and Grease appeals more to the boomers in a very
My
real
mom hates Grease. Anything to do with Grease, and my mom is absolutely like the boomer age, like
It's a
hates
do or
Grease.
die kind of hill, but I think it
Yep.
might also be a generational thing, is the gap in favoritism.
Well, Christy, I'm pretty sure you're Gen X, aren't you?
I am
What are
actually on the cusp. I am 80.
okay?
Um, so I claim Gen X because that's more my groove. But what I was going to say is it's the nostalgia factor. Okay,
Mhm.
now, and it does seem to go cyclical in that 20-year cycles. So because now we're seeing like the the Gen Zers that are going more towards the Y2K stuff that was like college for me.
Mhm.
But and when I think back on my high school years in the 90s, we were all emulating the 70s. I mean, we were making our own bell bottoms, and the long straight hair was in, curls were not. Um, but I think back in the 80s, it seemed like somehow we were still a little obsessed with the 50s,
Mhm.
fashion
Well,
and
new wave,
music
yeah, a lot of
wise.
that, yeah.
And you look at other movies that came out in the 80s, like Peggy Sue Got Married, Back to the Future, things of that nature that also were that 50s feel to, they were set back then and they did really good.
Mhm.
So I think that had a lot to do with it. Was it somehow we were still kind of stuck in the 50s nostalgia? I don't really, somehow never really remember a quote unquote 60s nostalgia.
Oh, that was the late '80s, early
Okay,
'90s.
so I'm just a little
Early
young for that.
90s,
Yeah,
early
like
You were a
grunge was
90s.
little
like,
young for that, but
And
that was
even
some
yeah,
of us earlier Gen X's remember that.
and even
Well,
that was more like mod focus, which is
Yes.
not the 60s that Grease 2 shows. So Grease 2 is also kind of hard to pin down because it is sort of in the transitional era of iconic 50s style into iconic 60s style. So it doesn't fit as neatly into the box as Grease 1 does.
yeah,
mhm.
that's valid, yeah.
Now, as a pretty stable millennial, I can tell you, like, I was aware of Grease too. I remember I have a distinct memory of going and renting it from Hy-Vee grocery store from their video department. Okay, like I remember because I kept looking for it and it was always gone. Um, and I finally remember going and seeing it. But the reason I wanted to see Grease 2 was because at the time there were pretty big rumors about NSYNC being the T-Birds in Grease 3.
Oh, well,
Oh.
I was way too old for any of that. Like,
I
So
missed that.
it was
I never
prime
heard that rumor
NSYNC
about
Grease
NSYNC.
even
era.
with Grease 3.
Like,
Yeah.
that
so
that's the first time I've ever heard those words uttered in that order, Sarah, for real. I
As
never heard
a
that rumor ever.
solidly Backstreet Boys girl, that would have pushed me away from Grease 3.
see, hey, I love them both, but I was an
I was the
NSYNC
weirdo
girly.
that was the 98 Degrees girls,
That's
so
valid. That's valid. You are valid.
I think I was still stuck on the Jackson 5 and New Kids.
98 Degrees was my first real concert, just
My
saying.
daughter was a little too young to get the most. She was born in 91. So, and
Mhm.
that's my youngest. So I kind of missed that generation because there was a whole lot of dirty diapers and stuff going on.
Makes
I
sense.
missed like NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys. I just missed all of that.
Mhm.
Plus, we were living in the Philippines. So a lot of times I miss cultural moments because I'm not in that culture at that time.
Culture at the
That makes
at
I
that
sense.
wish I
point.
was not in this culture at this time, but we won't go there. I'd like to skip some more
No, no,
moments.
no, no.
There's a few I've had, like living through a volcanic eruption in the Philippines. I would like to have skipped that one. Don't do that. If you get the choice, don't do that. Anyway,
Okay.
Fairy godmother, I wanted you touched on this a little bit, but I wanted your well, I want everybody's opinion, but I'm going to start with you. Um, how do the characters compare to their Greece counterparts? So whether that be Sandy and Stephanie or Michael and Danny or you can pick any character. Like
well,
how do
I'll,
they compare and do you think those differences made it a better movie for you?
for me, I really liked Maxwell Caulfield more than John Travolta because I was living on a Dutch base, a Dutch compound in Saudi Arabia. So we had a lot of British and French, and so his being from England was very attractive to me because that's the kind of guys I was interested in. And I always thought Danny was dumb, just dumb. He was so dumb and lost. And I liked Sandy, but she let his dumbness infect her. And Stephanie never let the dumbness infect her.
How about you, Stephanie? What do you think?
Yeah, and I agree with what somebody just said in the chat that Grease 2 has a switch. So I think of more like Stephanie versus Danny and Michael versus Sandy. And for me personally, the characters that I compare the most that make Grease 2 more enjoyable is actually not the main characters, but the T-Birds. I
Mm.
hate the T-Birds in the regular Grease. And the T-Birds in Grease 2 aren't great. Like, I don't know that I would want to hang out with them, but they're a lot more lovable and funny and harmless.
And
We'll
we all knew
ignore,
them
let's
in
do
high
it for our
school.
country. We'll just ignore that bit. But I do think, like, you can still root for them, even though they're kind of like, bumbling knuckleheads a little bit. Whereas, like, I didn't find any of the T-Birds in Grease 1 likable. I'm sorry, my dog has squeak toys.
I
Um,
was like, is that dog or kid?
I didn't find any
Don't
of them
worry.
likable, whereas I think I find everybody in Grease 2 likable in some way.
Okay. Okay. What about you, Greg?
You're muted, honey.
I had to cough. I'm sorry. I didn't want to cough in everybody's ear. I feel like I agree with Kevin. I think that Stephanie's the Danny counterpart. I think that all of them shake out very differently. But honestly, the thing I love the most about Grease 2 is Woodchuck or Upchuck, but she prefers Dolores, like Pamela Adlon, like just being thrown in there as like this random like soothsayer of the way to teach Michael some stuff. Like she's not really the Frenchie, but she's kind of the Frenchie, but she's also like she's not part of the Pink Lady. It's just like all of that, and I always loved her anyway and everything that she did back then as a young person. That was always great. I mean, if I'm gonna say like if I had to put a karaoke contest between John Travolta and Maxwell Caulfield, Rex Manning's not gonna make it. I'm sorry,
Well, he
But
uh,
only had
he's
one song for a
so sexy.
reason.
but he is sexy as he is
So
Rexy.
sexy.
But when everything is said and done, like I feel that and again I agree, like the characters are they're more fun. I like the fact that nobody really changes who they are at their core. Like Michael learns a skill, like he doesn't become like slutty. Like Stephanie like is a little dumb, a little like low rent, but she never has to like put on a tiara to like make herself into something. Like even Demucci learns a lesson after we do it for our country. Let's do like he learns like that he'll never score because there's nothing wrong with just liking each other, which is a ridiculous lyric. I love it. Um, but all of those things, like that's the thing I love the most. I like the parts where everybody's just like having fun. Like everybody, like there's like the Grease Lightning. There's all the tension at the cha cha and all the stuff between Danny and Sandy. That felt more high stakes than like literally anything in Grease 2 at
Let's go
all.
bowling.
Yeah, let's we're gonna score tonight. Like
We're
I
gonna
got kicked out of a bowling alley
go
in
tonight.
Albany for reenacting the entirety of that with my friend Todd at 9 a.m. Yeah, it
At
was a long time
9
ago.
a.m.
Well, we got there early for a
Coffee
Rocky
break
Con, and we
too.
rolled in, and Todd and I were a little hungover, so we were a little looped. But no, and the thing is that I genuinely like the relationships between everybody. I like Lorna Luft and Adrian Zemed, like that feels genuine. Like whereas
Mm,
like all of the T-Birds and the Pink Ladies in Greece all kind of feel like they were like we have to pair them off. Like Duty
mm-hmm,
is with this one and Putsy is with this one, and it's like that to me is like everybody felt just like Sharon and Demucci make sense. Like
mm-hmm.
they probably had a couple of kids, eventually.
She ended up running the family forever and had a
Right.
dynasty.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I dig the people in it. I feel that even though they're not it's not necessarily like the best script I've ever heard. The characters are just a lot more relatable overall.
Okay. How about you, Christy?
What was the original question?
How do they compare to their original
Thank
Grease
you. I had
counterpart?
totally lost
It
my.
doesn't make it more enjoyable for you.
Um, but yeah, I do go back to Michael is Sandy. Danny and Stephanie are the Sandy is, or Stephanie is the reincarnation of Danny, basically. Um,
I'm sorry. Ugh.
but I can't look because I can't look at Adrian Zemed. They're trying to make Johnny like the leader of the T-Birds, and it's almost like he's supposed to be the Danny, but he's not. He's
I
just
think
not.
he's like the Kaniki.
Yes,
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
dumb. Boy
Nikki
is
from Lost.
dumb.
Mhm.
And but I like that with the background characters, they didn't really try to force them into the same roles. Like
It
each
was
of the Pink
just
Ladies
humor.
has their own huge personality.
Mhm.
Like even though um, Paulette is very similar to Marty
Mhm.
in the fact that they both own their bodies and have fun. You know, even then, there's enough of a difference in the characters that you don't really pick up on it until you've watched it a couple of times.
Now, do you think that's maybe because they didn't make it more overt? Because, like, at least for me, um, in Greece, I don't want to say they were making her slutty, but I mean that
They
was
were
kind of the
making her slutty.
insinuation
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the time. Do you think that that was less played, like in order to make her more likable, or was it just a sign of the times,
I
or
think it was more a sign of the times because Paulette was definitely emulating Marilyn.
okay.
Yes.
And so you can see that in the hair, in the makeup, in the wiggle skirts, the tight sweaters, which don't get me started on the costuming because I will take over this whole thing. Um, but she never really comes out and throws herself at all these men except for Johnny. There's just comments that are made
Mhm.
like it's like she's not saying she's a quote unquote slut. The other kids are. Not that there's
Mhm.
anything wrong with being a slut, boys and girls.
True. Here,
I
here.
do not mean that description as a derogatory term in terms of this.
But in the
Absolutely.
movie, it was kind of meant as a derogatory thing
Yeah.
because the
Mhm.
T-Birds were not the good kids. And
Mhm.
she was started off as a good kid and they were making her bad.
Mhm.
And that was the underlying message in a lot of ways is that
Mhm.
if you were the rebel, you were the
In
bad
Greece,
girl.
not Greece
In
too.
Greece, not in Greece 2.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons
Okay.
why I love Greece 2 more. Is
Mhm.
because it doesn't have that undertone. There's not also I think there's a lot less of them being abusive and mean towards each other. Like
Mhm.
in Greece, the girls are so mean. The pink ladies are so mean to Sandy. It is, I
Mhm.
mean, down these days we would call that harassment and we would be talking to school about it.
Mhm.
But back then it was just the way the girls treated her. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of those little differences that are indicative of the time frame I think they were representing
Yeah.
and also the time when it was made because a lot of the feelings about certain behaviors had started to change in the 80s.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think like Grease 2 is like Grease 1 is like, you know, Sandy is becoming a slut and it's not good, but Grease 2 is like everyone's a slut and it's really fun. You were having a
Yes.
great time.
Well, and
And
yeah, like Grease is a parody of the 50s. Like Grease is like
right.
it's a send up of this stuff. And like if you look at all the movies from the 50s, all of the girls that went a little slutty got a little dead. And things like that. And that's the deal. And like the Grease 2 aspect of it where I mean at this point when Grease 2 came out, like Porky's had hit the cinema. You know, we had all of these sex romps, like all of these things happening in the 80s that were there, and the fact that it was just overtly like a positive, like be who you are, embrace who you are. Like even when I forget her name, but once they get the nose job, they're like, your nose is fine, shut the hell up. Like it's like
Yeah.
that's
Mhm.
that it was all about embracing like that. Whereas in Grease 1, everybody was like well you know, you suck, no you suck, no you suck. Like Kaneki and Danny were always kind of like this, and the other three
Mhm.
were over here like you know, stooging it
Stirring the
up.
pot.
And then and you're right, the girls were all like, you know, like just being shitty to everybody, like not just themselves. Like they're giving Frenchie grief, they're giving Marty grief, they're like all of this stuff, and then like all of the insane like all of the and even the background characters like in Grease too. Like if you look and you see like the Seagal twins and you see all of these guys that were like kind of 80s like Z-list celebrities, whereas like in Grease 1 like it was just so focused on those two groups of kids that everybody else was like superfluous. It was like their whole world was these the T-Birds and the Pink Ladies with a little Lorenzo Lamas thrown in. And then but in Grease 2 it was like it's the whole school's here, we're
Yeah,
all
there were
doing the
whole
dumb thing.
plot lines about the teachers, and I
Yeah.
loved the plot lines about
Yeah.
the
I
teachers.
mean,
That
Connie
one poor
Stevens,
guy
Tab
on his
Hunter, like,
meds.
it's Tab Hunter. Like that was he was coming right out
Poor.
of like polyester. Like I mean, like
Poor
it's
Mr.
just
Spears.
I
yeah.
know, I love him.
No, Allison, I feel like we're
More
not giving you a chance
hairspray.
to give your
Sorry, Allison.
opinion.
I apologize.
No, it's
Allison.
fine. I
No,
didn't
no,
really have
no.
much to add.
I
It's more I part of me kind of knew that Michael was Sandy and um Stephanie was Danny, but the more I watch it, I'm always like, no, they're the same, the girl and the guy, but like the guy changes for the girl instead of the girl changing for the guy. Like the girl is like, this is what I want, and the guy says, awesome, how can I be that? And
Mhm.
like he listens and he does, you know?
He
So
took action.
that was the thing that I took away the most, and that's what I loved the most about it. She said,
Mhm.
you're great and all, but you're boring, and this is what I want. And he said, challenge accepted. And he went and became that. So,
But
Mhm.
I also like too that by the end of the movie, like she also gets an appreciation for
I did
like
too for the
regular
price of
him.
one, is exactly what she
Yes.
said.
Mhm.
Shakespeare. She
He
calls it
changed his
Shakespeare.
outfit a little bit, his hairstyle a little bit, he changed his clothes, but the core of who he was never actually changed.
Right.
He just got this new skill and was the cool writer, but also inside was still the nerdy guy that was English and could play the piano and knew English,
Definitely.
literature and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
no,
see,
it
and
was
we also have to
brilliant.
remember too that Michael, just like all of us, got to watch Cool Rider, and it was a defining moment for him in that moment where he figured a lot of stuff out about Michael because Stephanie sang Cool Rider on that ladder. I'm just saying.
And I think Michael also got a lot of fulfillment from his interest in the
Yeah,
motorcycle as well.
He
It wasn't
enjoyed the
something he did
repairs.
just for like to impress
exactly.
Stephanie. It started that way, but he got a lot out of it too.
Every
Yeah,
that who's that guy? Like that whole scene of him just showing off to the
yeah,
entire school.
Mhm.
Everybody wanted to know who he was, and the T-Birds hated him because they were so jealous.
yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
so yeah, absolutely.
Kevin with the comments, man.
Kevin made me laugh. That was a good one,
Cool,
Kevin.
cool
Is
Rider. It
that
sounds like Jim Steinman had a lobotomy and then wrote a song, but in a good way. Okay. The only thing I guess I had to add is I will say that in Grease 1, yeah, they were mean to each other, but they also were a lot meaner to themselves. And Grease 2, I'm not saying they're not mean to themselves, but it's less of a story plot, like the whole like Frenchie like thing, like I always felt like the characters in the original Grease were just very cruel, not only to each other but to themselves.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
So, um, but one of we're about halfway through, but one of the things we've talked a lot about the characters and kind of the funny parts and stuff like that. But what is a moment in the movie that hit you the hardest emotionally, or if it didn't hit you emotionally, surprised you with its depth? And Allison, I'm gonna pick on you first.
Perfect. It's not what people would think, but Paulette telling Johnny when she's going out as Spring in her amazingly beautiful, sexy spring outfit. And he's Spring, summer. Am I being
Summer.
wrong? Summer.
Summer.
Summer, thank you.
June. She was a
And
bride.
Johnny is like, "What are you wearing?" And she's like, "Shut up. This is what I'm wearing. This is who I am.
You don't
You
own.
are going to be quiet and you're going to this is who I am. Take it or leave it." And what? Like, I'm not going to curse, but like
And I'm the
she is
best you're gonna
very
get.
much I'm the best you're gonna get. This is who I am. I am not winter. I am summer. This is who I am. And like the fact that she's able to stand up for herself, she's able to tell him no holds barred, no,
Mhm.
is so powerful. 80s, 60s, whatever it is. She knows who she is. She's super confident in who she is. And she's unapologetic about it. And I think it's brilliant.
No, no, I agree. How about you, Stephanie?
Actually, this is perfect because mine is right after the part that you were talking about. There is this moment when Paulette is on stage. It's a very brief moment, but every time I see it, I'm like, it makes me giggle. Like I like,
Mhm.
where Paulette is singing in her beautiful outfit, and Johnny is watching her from the wings, and he has this dopey smile on his face, like that's my girl. Like I love that moment because I do think it kind of shows, like I mentioned earlier, how I hated all the T-birds in Greece. It showed that like even though Johnny is really an asshole sometimes, like there's respect for women in there somewhere. You have to dig for it, but it's in there, and it's just like a really sweet moment.
And the squeakies
Emphasize the bloody
are bringing
squeaky.
you out.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just couldn't help it. Christy, how about you?
Actually, mine is also a Paulette and Johnny moment. Um, I know, right? At the luau, when he runs up to Michael and he's been yelling, he literally communicates with everybody by yelling.
Mhm.
So, and somebody, I think it was Paulette that pointed that out to him. You yell at everybody, and he's like jacket, and they throw the jacket, miss him, and hit her. And he turns to her, realizes it's her, and goes jacket, and modulates his voice. And that just always kind of hit me like he's learning.
Mm,
And she gets that like big gorgeous smile, and she's like
mhm.
jacket.
Jackies. How about you, fairy godmother?
First, I want to say something because this took me by surprise when I found it out, and I don't know if you guys already know it or not. But did you know who Paulette's actress is?
Yep.
Yes.
Yet, I
She's
don't know if our
yes,
audience
yes.
knows, but she's Liza Minnelli's sister.
Yep.
And
She's Judy Garland's daughter. Yeah.
Judy
Yeah.
Garland's daughter, yes. And the actress who played, and now her name's gone away, the youngest one. She went on to
Pamela
become
Adlon.
Hank Hill's voice,
Yeah.
yes.
Well,
The
Yeah.
voice of
she was Bobby Hill's voice, but yeah.
Bobby Hill's voice. Yeah, she went on to become the voice of Bobby Hill. And I always thought that was amazing. But for me, sorry, and I know you talked about his singing, and I agree, but Charades is the one that actually hit me in the heart because
The lyrics
as
are beautiful. Yeah.
a woman, a young woman with ADHD and a lot of issues, I masked all the time to get through life.
Mhm.
And when he was singing his song about nobody ever sees the real him, I just that pierced my soul because
Mhm.
that was my song. So that was the one that hit me with charades.
How about you, Greg?
Um. Well, I would say that most of these are the ones that always like surprise me. Like again, the jacket one always that was like I was like that was a really nice choice as an actor. Oddly enough, though, it's the most ridiculous lyric ever written, which is "Will I ever score? There's nothing wrong with just liking each other."
There's nothing wrong with just liking each
and
other.
and literally like watching Demucci's face as he's looking at Sharon, and he's so like I love you so much, and she's just like, it's cool that we just like each other, and he's like, okay. And it's like that to me was like those little things like that, like the little bits like where you don't need the nose job, where like Tab Hunter is like struggling to like those things got me. I mean, they made me laugh and stuff, but like they definitely also like the choices that those actors made with every aspect of it. But I also do
Mhm.
feel that Lorna Luft gets a lot less notoriety for being a quality actor because like not just Grease 2, but like even like other stuff that she's done, she's really understated. Um, and I dig that. Like I dig like the fact that she's not brash and crazy. And I mean Michelle Pfeiffer always says that this movie almost ruined her career, but at the end of the day, like I disagree. But um, but at the same time too, like
That's the whole point of this
right,
panel, is
she's
we disagree.
but she's got a lot of really like beautiful raw moments where she like when Michael says to her while they're eating and he's just like it's cool and she's just like is it, and it's just like watching as she realizes that it's okay to be who she is, and that
French
people like
fries.
she doesn't have to put on the tough girl facade, and like those little understated things as an actor and as like a guy who likes to watch people perform, like I always like it when you see like a very understated moment. So there's a lot of little things like that throughout the show, throughout the movie. I agree. Charades, like I don't. Maxwell Caulfield is not a great singer, but the lyrics of Charades are probably the most beautiful in the entire movie because everything else is played for like taking heart jokes for the bread and butter of our society. 80% of the movie is like talking about something crass, except Charades, where it's like literally a
Something's up
moment
with
of
your mic.
vulnerability. That's
Yeah,
probably my headset.
Something's up with your mic. You got
Okay,
muted.
is it better?
That's a little better, yes.
yeah.
Okay, go on.
I
We can
didn't
move on.
want us not to hear what you were saying because it was important. Sorry for
I
interrupting.
appreciate it.
One of the things that makes this movie relevant to us in this group is the fact that it's a musical. So I want to know, how do you feel like the music and the vocal performances stack up against the original Grace? And
Can I go first?
all right, Greg, we'll call on you first since you raised your hand.
I have a lot of feelings about this. As a musician, I have a lot of very strong feelings about this. And I played Grease itself, I don't know, too many times, like 100 million times. If they pay me, I'll
Mm,
play it. It's 4 chords and it's easy. But the thing that I always say when I defend Grease 2 in my drunken TED Talks is they only got one four season to sing the opening number where they got all four tops to sing the opening number. So mathematics 2 is automatically a better movie because 4 is more than one. And there we
yeah,
go.
I
Um,
will say though
The
the one
math
was
checks out.
Frankie Valley though.
I
I
mean,
mean,
shit.
like if they were to
But
get
like
one,
Levi
that
Stubbs
was
is
the
still a
one to
four
get.
top. I mean, Levi Stubbs was still a four top. Let's like, I mean, come on, those guys they came to play. But no, ultimately, like all of the songs, like Grease itself, like if we're talking the musical Grease, like the stage play, there's different songs in it and of itself. But like, there's a lot of pandering to the audience. I felt with the original Grease by giving John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John breakaway pop hits that we all sing at karaoke to this day. And that's fine, and they're not bad songs. I don't disagree. I don't think that they're bad songs, like in their.
Oh.
But
I want
Grease
to
2,
request reproduction
like
at my next karaoke night.
w- every
I
single
bet
song in
people
Grease
will sing
2,
with me.
like every single one of those sends me, man. Like every single like Cool Rider's great. We're gonna score tonight. Let's do it for our country. Like even like the slowed down we will be together as opposed to we go together. I dig it. I like the choice. I think it's a good choice. I mean, again, it's just 145. I mean, it's the same chords that everything was in the 50s. But I also love the fact too that they made the musical choice that while Michael is showing off on his motorcycle and riding all over the place, that he gets to sing 2 lines in his head. So everybody who's already broken out into song, which is abnormal in the real world, for like a literal like 8 counts, they just were quiet while he sang the lyric in his brain, and then they came back in like right back into the chorus like they knew it was time. Like that. That's a great choice. That's a bold choice as a director, as a songwriter, as a composer. All of that's a good choice in my opinion. So
And
Christy,
similarly, sorry,
okay, go ahead, Stephanie.
but similarly, I've always wondered the end when Stephanie sings her finale number, when she, totally takes over the talent show. What did that
that's such a good
sound
song.
like on stage? Because
Yeah,
who
I
was singing
wonder.
Michael's parts? Was she just standing there for half the song, like,
Mhm. Exactly. Like, and it's just like, and they're like, "What's happening right now? Is this poor girl having a stroke? We don't know."
they
Like, they're
gave her
just
the
standing
win
there,
out
like,
of pity.
we paid our 50 cents to come and watch the school talent show. Here we are. Like, I love every choice that they make musically in this. I think it's amazing, all the way around. And I'm going to counter Kevin's thing about Olivia Newton-John. Pfeiffer is an Academy Award winner, whereas Grease has none. I'm just saying. Like, Stanley Tucci, his brother Michael didn't win an Academy Award. I'm just saying.
As somebody who worked in a karaoke club um, for a large part of my 20s, I did not sing. I enjoy singing in the shower and in my apartment, not for other people. Um, I would rather shoot myself in the foot than hear Summer Lovin' ever
Yeah,
again in my entire life. Like there are
I'll
like
concur.
4 songs that I really hate, and Summer Lovin' is way up there in
Love
that
that.
no thank you, hit skip, never
Summer
again.
loving.
I
Never
understand this
again.
because I ran a karaoke show for 8 years. There are some songs I
Yep. No thank you.
So I'm
That's
gonna
one of
make
them.
sure that if we ever get a theater track, karaoke night, that is I'm gonna make sure that is on the playlist so somebody picks it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make
I mean,
Oh,
I will
Greg
sing
and
it and I will
Christy
pretend,
and
but
Allison sing it.
rather
gladly.
sing
I've
myself in
sang
the
it many,
foot.
many, 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 many times.
Me
One of
too.
those I enjoy singing, I don't sing well type of people.
It's
But yeah,
karaoke.
no.
It's gonna be called
we're
Sips
not
and
expecting you
Show
to sing
Tunes.
well.
So
Simps
So
and
get
show
wrecked
tunes.
and sing along.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
if you don't sound
Um,
good, drink 4 more beers or whatever your alcohol of your choice, and you'll sound much better then.
ding
Exactly.
ding
And if
ding.
you don't, you will. Trust me, you will sound better.
So Christy, how did? Because you were gonna be the person I called on first, and then people
All right.
I
tell.
actually had an answer for this one. Um,
What do you feel
because
like the music?
well, I love the music, but I'm a child of the 80s. And so much of this music did not have a 60s feel. It
Mhm.
was 80s.
Mhm.
Hmm.
By the way, Greg, love the Buffy reference put in there with the breakaway pop hit.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
because that is exactly what they were trying to do with a couple of these songs. When hearing charades again, and it made me think of the song that Christopher Atkins did in the pirate movie that they tried to
Oh
make
God,
with the
yes, that
big,
was a great movie too.
the yeah, the big thing. And that's all I could think about was, is that what they were trying to get on the radio? Is that what they were trying to use as their workhorse? Um, but to me, it just it a lot of it. I would definitely not say Steinman. I would say Bernie Taupin.
Okay.
All right, I'll accept that.
I
Okay.
mean, charades definitely had a Bernie feel
Oh,
to
for
it.
sure, for sure. Yeah.
But you're never gonna get Cool Rider out of my fucking freaking head.
No, 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 no. I mean, I
Christy.
literally sing. I sing
Christy.
all of them all the time. So my children have like they hate me singing it at them. Like I would wake them up singing like get up, and I would sing it's back to school again, and they would be yelling at me to stop
I
because I
I
had
sing
choreography and everything.
I sing random lines at my sixth graders when I'm in class and they have no idea what it is and I don't explain, but it still happens.
the
I
amount of
randomly
times
quote
that
Grease to you all the
random
time.
ones
Yes.
from reproduction.
Not
Reproduction
that
pops
one.
into my head
I don't sing that
almost
one
on a
at
daily
them.
basis. Not to sixth graders. No, no, no. But like reproduction,
Reproduction.
baby,
Yep.
give it to me. Just random times.
And to upset
Always.
my oldest,
Please put
often I would
reproduction on the karaoke sip thing for Dragon Con.
to upset
Because
my
I
oldest.
would love to see a bunch of
Let
theater
give
majors
me
go
a
off.
room and we can talk about it.
We could
But
do
I
all
need a
sorts of
room
things.
first.
Who
And
needs
then I need a
microphones?
karaoke machine,
No, we
which I
don't.
mean,
No,
Christy,
we don't.
Just a
you're
phone.
my audio person right there. Uh,
Let's
yeah,
not.
And
I
you don't
actually
get to
have
use
one.
phones, so.
Uh,
uh, Fairy Godmother, what do you think of the music compared to Grease one?
I think most of the songs are better. I really am sorry. I just hated the song at the musical that she sang because it was so drony and whiny. And I think it was the director's choice to film her looking perpetually lost for 6 minutes while she sings about somebody in a theater with somebody else singing with her who isn't really there, and nobody in the audience seems to even react or notice. I had a real problem with that one, but like reproduction and let's do it for our country. I mean, I can't think of them without laughing and being happy because they bring me back such good memories, and they're very upbeat, positive songs. And honestly, reproduction is a very good educational song for like high school kids because you could really teach them a few things and slip it in. I mean, it did for our generation.
That was a great choice of words, Fairy Godmother. Thank you
I
so
know.
much
I
for
just
saying it
realized.
exactly like that. I was like, that was very T-Bird of you
Friendly,
in that moment. So,
friendly.
so thanks for that.
We are
You're
before
welcome.
the curtain.
When you say it out
Uh,
that
I'm sorry, 12-year-old boy up here.
Stephanie,
hey, the gutter's wide enough for both of us. Thank you very much.
I know you jumped in there. Did you have anything to add on that?
I do. So I just agree that I think all the music is a lot more fun. Now, like from a singing perspective, I am a singer, so I do think the vocal performances are not as good as Grease, and some of the vocal performances actively upset me. I let I can't think of the actress's name right now, but in Let's Do It for Our Country, the
That's Maureen Teffy.
Maureen,
yes,
yeah.
her singing is terrible. It's like squawking. It drives me crazy. I know. This is the wrong panel for this expression or for this opinion. But overall, I would still a million times rather listen to the Grease 2 soundtrack than the Grease 1 soundtrack, even though Grease 1 has better singers, but the music and the vibes are just so much more enjoyable in Grease 2 that I don't care that they're not as good technically of singers.
We haven't
It's
even
the,
talked about Prowling even once.
Ah,
Like,
we're going prowling, dog,
Allison,
like Prowling
dog,
has fallen
now's
off
the
all
dog,
of our radar.
opportunity. It's
prowling.
your turn.
but I got to throw it out there. The voice that surprised me and that I fell in love with was Lorna Luft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
big, kind of gravelly voice.
She comes
You
by
know,
it honest. That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah.
You know.
Allison, what do you think?
Oh, I said I'd rather shoot myself in the foot than listen to Summer Lovin'.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's all you got to say.
I mean, like, I honestly don't remember the last time I've seen Grease. I couldn't tell you the entirety of the plot of Grease.
Middle of August, because we
Um,
had a Grease panel and I needed to watch it.
there you go.
I got stuck playing
But
Grease
it's
right
like,
after Dragon Con. So.
yeah, like I, I mean, the final song, "Wap, bam, wap, bang, boo," that's fun. What we go together, that's
Hmm.
fun. But I know Grease 2 so much better. I love it. It's fun. And I
I
like the story better, so I'm gonna like the songs better because I like the entirety of it as a whole better.
I guess counter to the point of this panel, for me, there is not a song that can make me cry in Grease 2 like there are worse things I can do in Grease 1. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's not a
mean,
fair
So
comparison.
in Grease
it's
2,
the song that just instant tears. I hear it.
But I don't think
So
Grease 2 tries to be that.
No.
I
So, like, the vibes are so
That's the whole
different that,
vibe thing. Yeah,
Like that was
it's
the whole
trying to be
teenage
fun.
pregnancy scare. That was like a
that
after school
was
special that was inserted into
that
our
was
weird
that
50s
was why
music.
you shouldn't be a bad
Now,
girl.
we're probably going to go a little bit over, but there are two questions I have left
Sure.
that I want to make sure I ask. So, first one, Allison, you're first. No raising hands. Um, One of the ongoing statements I hear when discussing this movie with people is that it's a much more empowering movie. Can you pick one big letters, bold, underlined, one example of this?
I said it earlier and I stand by it, is Paulette owning her body and her choice and her sexuality and telling Johnny that he needs to take it or leave it.
Fairy godmother.
Um, I just like the fact that she was like Stephanie was not gonna just be with one of the acceptable men in the group to be a part of the Pink Ladies. That she was like, no, I'm a pink lady, even though I'm not dating one of these men. I'm still a pink lady. It was much more. I mean, it couldn't be stripped away from her. She was fighting that whole partnership equals acceptance thing.
Hmm. Stephanie.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but what I really love is like my favorite scene in the movie is the diner scene with Stephanie and Michael, and like that's the part like yeah, he's great on the motorcycle as the cool rider, but what I like about him is that he makes her feel comfortable in like who she is and that she is enough as she is. She doesn't have to be a genius. She doesn't have to be like she's amazing just as she is. And I think she truly comes to understand and believe that by the end of the movie. Not that I think she doubted it necessarily before, but he reinforces that idea for her. And that's what I like about them as a couple compared to Danny and Sandy.
Christy.
I love the fact that not only does Stephanie have a job,
Mhm.
she's working in a male field.
Mhm.
I can
Mhm.
vouch for just how much fun that is, let me tell you. Um, and doing it back in the 60s, I mean, doing anything other than being a housewife, or maybe a teacher if you were a spinster. It was back then, not now. Let me just point that out. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was like, what do you mean she's helping out at her dad's service station? That's because back then, women didn't even pump their own gas. So not only is she doing a traditionally male job, she's doing something that most women don't know how to do in their everyday lives.
Mhm.
So that was yeah.
Greg.
Um,
I might
I'm
have put the big letters and everything for you because no TED Talks right now, please.
I understand. I'm a very chatty guy. I accept that. All right, you're not the first person to tell me this. Um,
I'm saying it with love. I am never dissing you. I'm just
oh,
saying.
I know, I know. I like everybody has hit points that I would like literally like happily put in my PowerPoint presentation. But I'm gonna say reproduction. Because the thing about reproduction that like in Grease 1, the only one that was like making like, innuendo jokes at crowds was Rizzo, and that's cuz she was supposed to be our tarnished lady, right? Whereas like while Marnie and French, all them were like they were always like behind their hand maybe saying something. Rizzo was the only one saying it. Whereas in reproduction, every person in that classroom is talking some shit. Like every
Mhm.
single one of them are talking about like bits and pieces and innuendo and being overt and like just to make Tab Hunter blush. And I love that so much. I used to use the word mentalstration to make my oldest uncomfortable when she started mental straightening, because I'm a terrible father. But
I was gonna say you said that on a panel of everybody else female presenting.
I said it at her. I said it at school when she was there next to me. It's like it's a thing. But the
It's
thing
only
about
embarrassing
reproduction,
because you say it wrong.
it's what he says mentalstration.
Oh, I
That's what
know.
he says. Like, that's the best part. But I love the fact that literally everybody, not just the T-birds and the pink ladies, like the geeks and the
Look at
nerds
him,
and
he's
like
proud of what he's done, is
yeah,
random secondary character. Yeah.
right. And it's like and the only people that were acting like put out by were the prudish twins that we established throughout the movie are the prudish twins in the high school.
Virgin
Um,
alert.
And like yeah, and that's okay too. Like whatever. And but like at the end of the day, I feel like that was such an overtly um like empowering moment because everybody was just like, it's just sex, who cares? And it was like that's cool. And maybe Rizzo paved the way since she graduated several years earlier with
Yeah.
her, fornication jokes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I feel that like Rydell High was better for it at the end
And
of the
The
day.
like
fun secondary innuendo on that is right after that song when the student goes to the principal,
Yes.
missed my last two periods. Oh, you
Yeah,
can make it up
Make
at
it
the
up
end of
for
the
school.
day. And then it's
exactly.
like, wait, what was she talking about? It's like, ah!
Yeah, I love it.
So great.
And I think it's great too that in reproduction, like the joke in that song, most of the jokes are on the guys for not knowing anything. The girls know
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, they know it all.
And I think that's great.
Yeah,
And true.
and I do love Tab Hunter. He's just, he's cool.
We might have picked
All
up on.
right. So anybody who knows me knows I like to, in these kind of panels, like to throw a question that wasn't written down onto the form. So, Grease 3. Yes, no, and what decade? Because we're past the 20 year mark now.
Well, it would have to be like the dudes listening to like Linkin Park and shit in like '02. Like
No, I
everything would
think
sound
it needs
like Limp Bizkit.
it needs to come out in the 30s, and it needs to be all Gen Alpha speak.
Skibbity toilet nonsense. Yeah. All right.
Skippity toilet nonsense for the Riz, man.
Yeah.
If you wanted to
Okay,
explain your
if it
mark,
came out next year in 2026, okay, I want to know what generation are we talking? Are we talking 80s? Are we
Well,
talking 90s? 2000s? 2010s?
if we did
What
it
are we talking?
historically active, we're correct with the history of Greece. We would have to set in like the 2020s and have no one wear a mask because we're representing the 2000s.
well, no, 2005 would be
Well,
Right.
yeah,
20 years prior.
Right.
Oh
exactly.
God,
I
don't say that. Don't
no,
say that. Oh my
It's
no,
cool.
I
heart.
would love. Oh, I
I
know.
mean,
Trust me.
I turned 30 that year. That's fine. Um,
What I would love is like, so I'm originally from South Florida,
Mhm.
and street racing was very much a thing. I graduated high school in '02. Like,
Oh,
think of a musical version of like the first Fast and the Furious,
I was
like
just
that style of street racing, but in a musical. I have no idea what the music would be like, but in terms of like if you're thinking cars, hot rods, motorcycles, like that was the thing, like the '97
instead of
Honda Civic.
oh
motorcycles,
my
we'll
God,
have
it would
Every
be
bodies in a bright green
2000
Honda
Honda Civic,
Civic.
every guy had
it would
one.
be it would be Fast and the Furious the musical. That's what it would be.
Exactly. Like
Salivet's
I don't know what the
entire
music would
report
be.
for this.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I have a lot of emotions about
Kevin's
that.
got it for the quotes tonight, let me tell you.
So great.
Mm.
Enjoying your
I just
comments,
Christy, what do
Kevin.
you think?
Man, I gotta go. Alyssa had it right. Rise of the Pink Ladies was our Grease 3, which loved it.
It
Loved
doesn't
it.
exist anymore. It's
I
been wiped
know, I
off the face
know.
of
To
the
find
earth.
it, I need
I
to torrent it from somewhere. You can probably find a torrent, but
Yeah, but I'm loving the idea of Fast and the Furious the musical. Greg, get on that music. I'll help you with the lyrics.
Yeah.
Sure,
All
it
right. All
already
right.
exists, and he's gonna find it, and he's gonna find a slime tutorial of it.
I grew
So
up in a garage. I work in a garage. I know my automotive crap.
All right. I know
Info
nothing, so I
consultant
definitely want to use your help.
application received.
Ugh.
okay, how about you, Stephanie? What do you think?
I I think like my vote is gonna be that we are greasing skateboard wheels now, and that we are doing
Kevin's gonna agree with you.
a 90s
Kevin is gonna.
skateboarding movie.
I accept
oh
that.
Um,
yeah,
Kevin,
King of
Kevin,
maybe
you
the
need to
Tony
write
Hawk.
this and
roller
direct
park.
it.
Ooh, set at the X Games. You could have rival
Yes,
the
yes.
inline skaters versus the skateboarders. And then the
Absolutely.
BMX and motocross, and oh, I love it. I love it.
If people don't know, Kevin has a whole podcast about this.
Yes, yes.
As he's like he's literally talking, insinuating about. I
Um,
don't remember the name of your podcast, so you need to
it's
tell it to
it's
me.
it's streaming the tube. I listen to it religiously. It's wonderful.
Okay.
I'm actually going to say, Kevin, though, because in your podcast you don't actually have a Grease 2 podcast, and there is skateboarding because Woodchucker Upchuck, but she prefers Dolores, does skateboard every weekend.
Yes, she
But
does.
that type of skateboard was actually the one she had was too early for the time period.
But it's a skateboarding podcast. It's about any movie that has a skateboard in it. That's the jam.
So Grease 2 would qualify.
It would.
Look,
Yes, Gleaming the Tube. I said it wrong. I'm
I
sorry. I
went on
do
a
listen to
deep
it all the time,
dive.
though.
So
That's okay. You're among
Now,
friends. You've
now,
got your
now,
school the
Kevin,
certification.
you need to get Greg back on your podcast or have a part two because once again, I've run out of questions or time, and I have too many questions. So maybe we all meet back on Kevin's podcast. Uh,
I'm sure he would love that.
oh yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. We love you. We love you, Kevin. Um. Anyway, we are over though, and as I said, once again, I wrote too many questions, but that's okay because it's part of the fun. You never know what's coming next out of the panels. That being said, if you like what you've seen, we might have another one of these in defense of panels coming on later down the year. And I know some of my panelists do not like this one. Uh,
Hmm?
Cats the musical. So you better watch out for that one coming up. Other than that, what we got planned for February? Uh, we don't have any dates set yet because I'm actually gonna start reaching out to panelists tomorrow. But what we have planned is reviving the magic classic plays and musicals and Stage Parents 101, nurturing the young performer. If you're interested in being on that or any of our panels in our group, as listed above, DragonCon Theater and Performing Arts Lovers Unofficial on the Facebook, because yes, we are still on Facebook. Um, um, you can find that in the featured pinned section of our group. Until then, I would love if each of my panelists would just tell us once again who they are and where we can find you. And Greg, you're first on my screen, so you're going
Sure.
first.
Well, I'm Greg Bell. I run a company called Bloody Mayhem Theatrical out of Baltimore, Maryland. We do lots of weird stuff. We got a couple of weird Clive Barker plays we're looking at doing coming up in this year. Next thing I'll be doing is, well, I'm currently playing Whitechapel the musical, which is a musical based on Jack the Ripper, which is a world premiere set out of the Club Car Baltimore. So if you happen to be nearby, come see it. And then this October, I will be mounting a production with my friends at Mott and Bailey Productions of Hamlet and the Black Parade, where we take Hamlet and we merge it with My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade
I was really
and
hoping
make
that you were
it
going to say that. Oh my god.
and we make
So
it a
we need
thing.
to
And
find a way
I'm
to get to Baltimore, is what you're saying.
When
exactly,
I
exactly,
was a
uh,
young Dane.
exactly. Um, and it'll be the first 2 weekends in October. So we location TBD at this point. We've got a couple locations we're scouting at this juncture. Also, I'm shadowcasting Clue at the AFI Silver in Silver Spring, Maryland. So come see that.
Christy, where can we find you?
uh, Christy Chalmers. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I do actually have a local band that I'm going to plug here in Columbus, Georgia, Me Shaped Hole. We just played our first big gig this weekend and it went rather well. That's probably why my voice sounds like absolute crap right now. Um,
No.
but also, if you're looking for me at con, look for Sarah. I'm probably somewhere nearby, or I'm doing the parade. I head up our theater group for the parade. So if you're planning on doing that, go find the forms and or message me. I will send you the forms so we can get your information.
hmm February 14th is the guaranteed wristband cutoff date. After that, we can't promise anything. And thank you again, because Sarah needs people to do things at con. Stephanie, where can we find you?
I'm Stephanie Post. I'm a middle school teacher out of Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're a Dragon Con local, I am a performer and production officer with Voices of Note, which is like an umbrella organization for the Atlanta Women's Chorus and the Atlanta Gay Men's Chorus.
That's why I
Um,
recognized your name.
and if you are in Atlanta or near Atlanta, or you can get to Atlanta in March, we are actually doing a joint concert with both the Women's Chorus and the AGMC called This Is Me. It is a body positivity concert, so we are debuting a multi piece commission of all different things related to body positivity, and then we have also things that we're performing, and we do between the two choruses, we do like 6, 7, 8 productions throughout the year. So the organization is called Voices of Note, and then Atlanta Women's Chorus and Atlanta Gay Men's Chorus. If you're in Atlanta, it's like going to be an amazing show. So please come check us out.
I know we'll be there.
Allison, how about you?
I am Allison Helfrich. My last name sucks. So I'm on Facebook. You can find me Sabriel_dreams on Instagram and Threads if you really want to. I live in New York City. I am a theater aficionado. I am not in theater. That's me. I should be a
So we
Dragon
can
Con this
all
year.
go bunk with you when we want to go see Smash on
I do
Broadway.
live in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself in New York City. So
Ooh,
Girl,
That's
Chloe.
throwing
impressive.
that out
very.
there.
So if we
Anyway,
play by Dragon Con rules, how many can we shove in each room?
I
Probably
can
10.
sleep a lot of people in my apartment. My Dragon
Group
Con
trip,
rules,
group trip.
you could get 20 or so people in my apartment, but I have one bathroom. Um, so
Hey,
yeah.
that sounds like Dragon Con to me.
Yeah.
So, you shower in shifts.
There you go.
Uh,
There you go. Yeah.
Fairy Godmother. Where can we
I
find
will be performing at MegaCon Orlando. I have a show Tuesday at 1 o'clock, sorry, Saturday at 1 o'clock, and Sunday at 2 o'clock in the Family Zone. I have 4 of my fairy tales for today's heroes up for sale on Amazon. And I am just going to keep pouring as much love and acceptance into the world as I can. So, if you want to support me, I'm Little Seed of Happiness on Patreon or Cosplay Fairy Godmother on Instagram.
you? That being said, where can you find me? You can find me at the group labeled above Dragon Con Theater and Performing Arts Lovers unofficial. As far as where you can find me at Dragon Con, well, you'll be able to find me lots of places if you can get me to stop moving,
Rumor
basically, is
is you
how
can
that
find her
normally
4 places at once if you're good enough.
goes.
Bring her snacks she forgets to eat.
You forget to eat. That being said, I kind of keep my own social media private, but you can find me around. Always send me a message. We're always looking for stuff. Also, feel free to contact my fellow admin, Gary Mitchell. He's not on this panel tonight, but he is around. You can't miss him, and you can check out his podcast, the podcast of a mod.
Amontillado.
Yeah, the
Thank
podcast.
you,
Podcast of Amontillado.
Yeah.
God, the
thank you,
puns are
horror people.
excellent tonight.
Until then, we're going to close the curtain and say good night.
So long.
Bye.
Farewell.
Avida Saint adieu.
Adieu. Adieu.
Adieu.
To ya and ya and
Adieu.
ya. I hate that music.
Goodbye.
You realize uh, it's having an anniversary